Hello everyone, welcome to the Coffee Run Live, episode 439. It is I, your host for the Coffee Run, today and every day, talking about all things consistency and the power of focus. So something that I've really looked at, hi Maria, is over the years I've been so fascinated with human behavior, and I think we're in this kind of like melting pot at the moment of a really interesting, if we kind of like take a look at it, hey Catherine, kind of like this really sort of like cool melting pot of human behavior and how people are. And what I've been really seeing has been some people that kind of get sidetracked by things that are maybe going on, or shifting their focus. And what I wanted to talk to you about today is really about how important it is for you to show up and be consistent, for you to be able to obviously show up and be you, which that's always the thing that I talk about, but also just the power of the snowball effect and what can happen. So I spoke on Monday, actually a couple of episodes ago, about business models, about ascension models and high paid advisor models and the pricing. And yesterday we talked about money and being aware of what your cost per acquisition is and really knowing your numbers. And I think one of the things that a lot of people forget is that it's in these small, consistent action steps that results happen. So what can happen if you're training at the gym and you're like, you're lifting weights and you see this really remarkable improvement, and then we kind of hit a plateau, right? I don't know if you guys have experienced that. I know I've experienced this, where it's like, okay, like I'm getting stronger. And then it's like, oh my God, there's been no movement. I can't lift any heavier weights. Like, what the hell is wrong? Maybe this is as good as it gets. Kind of like hit this, it's almost like a muscle and strength ceiling. And the same thing can happen in our businesses. And I guess like what we've got to have a look at, in my opinion, and from what I've seen from the research that I've done with like getting into the minds of my mentors and trying to understand, what it is that's made them successful, what it is that keeps them lit up from the inside and fueled and passionate about what it is that they do. It's constantly and always taking these consistent and persistent steps and focusing on what it is that they want to create. Now, we've got this really cool moment in time where it is the start of a new financial year. And I like to think of the start of new financial years as being almost like a clean slate. So something that I've done that I spent some time doing this morning actually was getting rid of everything in my money tracking spreadsheet. I've got rid of everything and I start fresh at the start of the year. So every day what I do is when I log into my internet banking, I track my income every single day. Hey, Rebecca, great to see you. I track my income every day, and that just gets plugged into a spreadsheet. And so at the end of the financial year, I can say, oh yeah, this is where we're at. This is what we're looking at. Okay, cool. Like things are tracking along. So every single day I know what my numbers are, how much money I've made, how many sales I've made, who's bought, everything like that. So I've got all of that documented and itemized. What that does, it provides me with some evidence that even when I feel like my stuff is not working, which I do sometimes feel like that, just to be, completely open and honest, very transparent, sometimes I feel like my stuff doesn't work. Sometimes I get caught up in my head like, oh, maybe I'm not where I want to be yet, or like it didn't feel like this did really well, or, whatever. And it's like, well, how about we just put that emotion over to the side for a second? And what am I choosing to focus on? And what I've really loved seeing through leaders that I've interviewed, that I've worked with over time, they all talk about things will like it's almost like the bottom layer, the bottom of your income, if you think about the peaks and troughs, that the way that it bottoms out goes up, right? So constantly going up. So if you're thinking about some months you'll have really great months, then other months it'll kind of come down, but the lower months are never as low as the low months perhaps when you started. And we always know that things are always improving and always going up. So like really shifting your focus. Sometimes though, like at the gym, it can take a different action for you to undertake in order to kind of like get up and into that next level. And I guess this is where focus becomes really important because it's easy to get distracted. So I was talking with some clients this morning, and we were chatting about how one of the things that is a really big focus at the moment. So what if you were to channel that energy into kind of like going, like using that energy as fuel to really bolster and push out all of this extra energy into what it is that you're really wanting to promote. So like I guess it's like focusing on the, you're focusing on the negative, or are you focusing on the positive? Are you focusing on the things that you can control, that you can influence, or are you being kind of like sidetracked into other things? I think that's something that you really want to have a look at. Because if you're thinking, I'm not there yet. Oh, I haven't got there yet. Oh, it wasn't my best month ever, or whatever. It can feel in those moments a little bit dejecting. So it's really important for you to be able to have kind of like a helicopter view, which is what I find this money tracking and sales tracking does for me. It's like it gives me a helicopter view that actually, it might not feel like things are growing and increasing, but look at where we were at this time last year. Look at where we were 6 months ago. Look at where we were last month. Look at how many people are coming in through this stuff. And really thinking about that stuff and using that momentum to build your snowball. So you know what happens with a snowball, right? It starts really small, and then if you push it down the mountain, in theory, that snowball should become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I like to think of sales and money and income happening in the same way. So you can start off small, and then you add another thing in, then it gets bigger, and then you add another thing in, and then you add another thing in, and then the more payment plans you get, the more sales you make, the more clients you have coming in, the bigger your email list. Like your income snowball should actually start really increasing. I was also talking this morning a bit off the back of the live that I did yesterday about knowing your numbers and your cost per acquisition and things like that. It's really important that you, just as a reminder, really important that you know your costs. Like, what is the costs of opening the doors? Because a lot of those costs are likely to be fixed. So the only things that really, in my mind, the only things that are really variable, the variable costs in your business, how much money you channel into advertising, how much money you channel into other things that you're doing, but your systems, the things that support you, like they have to be there. So if you're choosing to think about those as being you need to have a store. If you're going to sell retail in a shopping center, you have to have a store, you have to have stock, you have to have your point of sale system, you have to have all of that there. So instead of thinking like, oh my God, this is going to be so expensive to have this thing, or, whatever, think of it more in terms of infrastructure costs. Know what they are, and they shouldn't scale. So if you're focusing on going, okay, well, if I'm at least covering the costs of those things with what you're selling, and everything else over and above that can be cream, and that's the stuff that then snowballs. I think the other thing that is really interesting, I remember doing this thing with a mentor of mine going back a few years ago, and he said, if you were thinking about your thinking, do you what's the percentage? How do I frame it? Like, what's your positive? How positive are you, right? And I'm like, I'm always positive. But what's really interesting about this, and this comes into the focus thing, there'll be things that come up throughout your day, throughout your week, throughout your months, throughout your years, where you can kind of, if you choose to, you can be really sideswiped by different things that come up. And this percentage of positivity or percentage of negativity, he actually called it, which is kind of curious. If you were to document almost your thinking on a daily basis. So going, okay, so how do I feel about that? And then give yourself a smiley face, a sad face, or an indifferent face. And then in the next half an hour, like if you had negative thoughts come in, if you had positive thoughts come in, and really kind of documenting that, if you can focus on more channeling your stuff into being more resourceful So you're using your conscious mind to go, all right, I'm going to focus on what I can do. I'm going to focus on what I can control. I'm going to focus on how I can influence people. I'm going to focus on the resources that I do have. It'll open up new opportunities to you, right? Versus going like, oh, like I've got no control over this. I've got no control over that. Like Victoria's been locked down and we're being banned out of Queensland, I think today. It's like, I can't control that. And it's my favorite place to go. Not on the planet. It's my favorite place to go is to go to Queensland. We can't do that at the moment, but I can't control that. So instead of getting sucked into this kind of like negative thinking about it, it's like, all right, well, what can I do? How can I change my thinking? How can I focus on the bringing in more positivity, more abundance, and that type of thing? Because there's always going to be stuff, guys. There's always going to be stuff that sideswipes you. It could be a fight with your partner. It could be your kids getting a bad grade. It could be a bad report. It could be, you waiting on a diagnosis. It could be it could be anything. Anything could, fly up and out of your past that could sideswipe you. It's really important during the time that you have to market yourself that you are using the time really, really wisely and really smartly. I think, and really focusing what you can control. So that's that. What else did I want to talk about today? Oh, that's right. So what's really interesting, I like I said to you, I spoke about numbers and stuff yesterday. I actually went and I tidied up all my spreadsheets this morning, but also yesterday I took a look at my numbers for June and I was like, oh, holy shit. Like my best month in the financial year, the 2019-2020 financial year, so the last half of last year and the first half of this year, my best month in that 12-month period was August last year. And I had a look at my numbers about halfway through the day yesterday. It was about 1 or 2 o'clock, I think. And I've gone, oh, holy shit. I'm actually really close. If I just do this, that, and the other, I think I said to my husband, I'm about $700 off having my $700, doing my best month this financial year. And this is yesterday, right? So 30th of June yesterday. And so I looked at that and I was like, oh, wow. I've got this tiny window of time. And so less than 12 hours. I'm like, oh, I wonder if I could smash that out. So I've gone, oh, I had this idea and then I had this idea and then I had this idea. I'm like, okay, bang, 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 bang. So what I did was by looking at the numbers, I was able to create some short-term focus and think about, all right, well, I can't control what people do, but I'm just going to make this stuff as available as I can, be as vocal and as open as I can possibly be, and get this stuff out there. And let's just actually see what happens. And what was really cool was when I ran my numbers and I had a look at them this morning, I was like, oh, I missed it by $10, you guys. $10. I'm having my best month in the financial year yesterday, but that's okay. So what I really liked about it though, was it was like this little firehouse of energy that got lit up under my ass, to be honest, to go, okay, why aren't you talking about this stuff more? Why aren't you promoting this stuff more? The more you promote it, the more you do, the more you help people. And I think that's a really interesting, it was a really interesting reminder for me, rather than it feeling hard. Because sometimes the promotion stuff feels hard. Sometimes the marketing stuff feels hard. Sometimes the ideas can feel hard, they can just feel a bit congested, right? Trying to pull them out. But for me, with these kind of little pockets of short-term focus, I was just like, all right, let's go. It's actually because I had a bit of competition with myself, right? Which was kind of a really interesting insight. But I suppose how that might help you is that if you create these little pockets of action and little reasons, it might feel little, but there's reasons for you to kind of go, all right, well, what else could I do? And what else could I do? And what else could I do? It can create some short-term action things that you can undertake that really boosts that momentum. It helps you to be consistent with your marketing and what you're putting out there, and that then helps you really to build that snowball of income, the momentum snowball, and you being able to get in front of the people that you really want to, at the end of the day, you really want to help and inspire and motivate and all that kind of stuff. So Be consistent. Find some things that you can really focus that action on. Shift your focus away from all of the ifs, buts, maybes, what ifs, and, you know, the worst case scenario stuff, and go, all right, remember to focus on your positive and what you can do and what you can control. It would be interesting for you to, I think, for you to be able to have a look at it and go, all right, well, you know, what's my percentage of positivity on a daily basis? And I think what I find interesting about that is that sometimes I think that I'm a bit delusional, in the sense that, you know, I really work, not hard, but I really like to go, all right, you know, how can I navigate this situation? How can I move through, you know, and shifting the focus to being a more positive, you know, cup half full type thing. How can I make this work for me? How can I make this situation work for me? And for me, and then that way, like, if you know that you're generally like at 80% positive, that's really fucking amazing, right? But if you find that you're 80% negative and you've done the numbers on that, then it gives you a really great insight into what's going on in the back of your head, potential self-sabotage stuff. It's probably the stuff that leads to procrastination. It's probably the stuff that leads to overwhelm. It's probably the stuff that leads to self-doubt. It's probably the stuff that leads you into like, oh, you know, everybody else has got it easy. Everybody else is doing this, you know, blah, 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 blah. So it can give you some really powerful insights. So I would be looking at that as well. I trust that that's helpful for you. Let me know that it is, please and thank you. Share this far and wide if you found it helpful. If you've got any questions about this or anything else, let me know. Otherwise, get out there, go help some people, have a whole ton of fun doing it, and remember that the world is ready for your brand of awesome. Be really clear on what you're focusing on, and everything else will follow. Have a great day, everybody, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.